Hey everybody, it's Gary Ugaric, your favorite low independent budgeted producer of zombie films. No, I'm just kidding. I know I'm not your favorite. I'm probably like, ugh, get off the fucking screen. Anyways, I just came back from seeing Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, so um, it was a lot to take in. This is a 2 hour long movie, and I thought I'd share some of my thoughts. So um, right now, I'm kind of like this with it. I mean, it's not horrible. It's not horrible. It's not fantastic. It's, kind of just in the middle. You walk out and you're like, all right, well, I spent $10.50. All right, I got my money out of it. That's pretty much the way I walked out of it. Now, be prepared. There are spoilers. So, one of the great things about Army of the Dead is that Zack Snyder did his cinematography, did all the cinematography. And as you know, with any Zack Snyder film, excuse me, the visuals are going to be nothing short of amazing. And that is what happened here. We have truly amazing visuals with this movie. I mean, the camera work, the cinematography is just way up here. I'm surprised Zack Snyder doesn't do more of his own cinematography. And I know that's a lot to put on somebody when they're doing a production like a DC Comics movie or something like that, but the guy's got a great eye. Give him that. The story. Well, it's got plot holes like crazy. Obviously, the movie kicks off with, the United States Army that, did something at Area 51 and they're transporting this thing across the desert and, it gets loose. They don't know what it is. There's some great back and forth because nobody wants to talk about it being Area 51. They go back and forth about what they could be carrying. The lunar excursion module that supposedly was left on the moon. All kinds of crazy stuff. They just talk about having. So when this thing gets loose, and it really is like bioengineered, and they get their first look at it. It is goofy, but scary in a way because of how fast it is and how brutal it is, which kind of sets up part of the movie in a sense. So there's two types of zombies in this movie. There's the alphas and then there's the shamblers. So the shamblers are just slow idiots. Don't really have much intellect. Now the alphas are really, 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 really think Return of the Living Dead without the talking. I mean, just super smart. Now they also have a mythology that Zack built into it that if you're infected by a shambler, you become a shambler, but if you're infected by an alpha, you become an alpha. So basically the story revolves around that when Las Vegas was walled off, which is one of the plot holes I'll talk about. Anyways, whoever owned casinos in there, their insurance companies paid off. And one of the rules in Vegas, if you've ever watched Ocean's 11, which is a very, very much a requirement, is casinos have to have X amount of money in their vaults at all times to cover the play on the floor. So apparently the guy who played Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movie owned a casino, and he has over $200 million in a vault under the Strip. And the insurance company already paid him, so it's tax-free money. And he offers Dave Bautista, who's Scott Ward, to assemble a team and said, I'll give you $50 million if you go in and go get the other $150 million. And now I know what you're kind of saying, like, really? You're going to go through all that trouble for $200 million? $200 million isn't really a lot anymore. It's like we used to say, oh my God, what would I do if I was given $1 million? $1 million 20, 30 years ago was a lot of money. $1 million today basically is like, it's a drop in the fucking bucket. But still, it's $200 million. It's tax-free money. Nobody knows about it. It's, for far as the insurance company knows, it's lost under the Strip forever. So they have this short window to get it out. Why? Because, the United States government, after walling off the city, doesn't know really what to do with it, so they decided they're going to pretty much nuke Vegas. And they actually say nuke, which lends into another plot hole that turns out in the movie. That's why I said spoilers. So anyways, they have this 32-hour window to get in and out of Vegas. So, the guy basically says, this is where the money is, this is the type of vault it is, gives Dave Bautista the plans. Dave Bautista goes around and finds the people he needs to assemble, which just all happen to be in Vegas, which is kind of convenient. I think the world's best safe cracker wouldn't live in Vegas, but then again, what do I know? Maybe it's a good place to live because you're going to be able to break into a lot of safes in Las Vegas. But anyways, obviously it's the outskirts of Vegas since it's a zombie town. But anyways, so they assemble the whole team, and most of them were people who had rescued humans from zombie-infested Vegas while it was being walled off. Now that brings in the whole thing. Let's talk about the walling off. The amount of area square acreage that they're showing walled off. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I can't buy that the United States government could get that coordinated that quickly in order to wall off that much of Las Vegas to contain the zombies. And I'm sorry, knowing that there's these alphas and these shamblers, it doesn't make sense that they could have pulled this off. But let's go with the sake of argument that they pulled it off. So Vegas is walled off. There's a person called a coyote that what happens is they help people get into Vegas in hopes of they'll get money because there's a quarantine camp outside of Las Vegas. So anybody who survived has to be quarantined for a while, and then they, if they don't turn, then they get shipped out to someplace else. So anyways, what happens from there is they enlist these people in the camps, want a better way of life because obviously, like with any immigration camp or quarantine camp, you're treated like shit. You want the best for most of you. So what they'll do is the people in the camp hire this person who knows how to get in and out to get them into the city and usually get them out. But this time, these guys get a hold of her, and she lives in the quarantine camp to get them in. And so once they get in, now you start meeting the different levels of zombies. And they do have zombie animals in this. And this is one of the interesting things. It's like, so if you remember in the trailer, when the zombie tiger shows up, the guy says, that's a goddamn zombie tiger. He said, that's just crossing the line. Imagine this. Zack Snyder knows the shit that he got for the Dawn of the Dead remake. He knows the backlash from Romero fans. So Zack Snyder, and this is full on display, and if you don't see this, you don't deserve to be a fan of the zombie genre, took every element of zombies that you could think of, from the shamblers to the runners to the intelligent to zombie animals, and he threw it in the mix. He even references the Romero films, the Dan O'Bannon Return of the Living Dead, Resident Evil stuff. He definitely covers the gamut. So you can tell Zach's a fan of the zombie genre. He doesn't subscribe to any one particular favorite. He just likes zombies. So he touches on everything. I said there's even a joke about when they first get into the city, there's all these zombie corpses laying around by where they go in and out of, and the coyote that brings them in, and she says, this is what happens when you end up in the sun and they're all, melted and meshed together, because in Las Vegas it gets 100 plus degrees. And she says, you should see what happens when it rains, because they all look just like still bodies. And when I heard the rain part, I'm thinking trioxin, that's so the great part is he essentially is referencing the 2,4,5 trioxin from Return of the Living Dead with that scene alone. So now you get into what they're calling Zeus, who's the lead zombie. And Zeus is like the king. And then the girl zombie, the Las Vegas chick, I don't know what you want to call her. Anyway, she was like his queen. And which Zack Snyder's got a thing with kings and queens. But anyways, their relationship is explored more. So obviously they're getting into the city. They got to figure out how to crack the safe. That's why they got the curly guy. And there's a lot of fun picked at certain things. So like when they're originally setting up the plan, and then Scorpion is going over the entire plan, you know, the safe cracker guy is envisioning this badass team of people that are going to be like, you know, oh yeah, we're sitting there, and that's why he has the baseball bat with all the knocks, and then he gets snapped back to reality. He's never fired a gun. He's never done this, so they teach him how to fire a gun, and it turns out he's a pretty good shot. But it's quickly established in this movie, nobody's a horrible shot. So that's one thing with the Zack Snyder universe. Remember, he's putting a team together of people who went into the zombie zone to bring people out when it originally first happened. So they're not, you know, poor marksmen by any stretch of the imagination. So anyways, you get to explore great things about what Las Vegas would look like as a zombie wasteland, which I thought was cinematically beautiful, especially when they go in those huge wide shots, and then he's got that helicopter shot right out of Apocalypse Now, more like the documentary Hearts of Darkness. That I loved. So I'm sitting there, I'm kind of geeking out. Is there some funny moments? Absolutely. Because at one point they got to get through booby traps that are set up in the casino vault area. And obviously, casinos don't really have true booby traps. They're mostly just silent alarms, things of that nature. But it's a Zack Snyder zombie film set in Vegas. So how they have to circumvent these booby traps is actually quite funny. And that's where some of the best laughs in the film come from. You're going to see a great relationship between, I don't want to call him Chainsaw Guy, Circular Saw Guy and Safe Cracker Guy. They end up becoming really great friends and save each other's asses a few times. And Dave Bautista, I mean, you know, the only thing I've ever really seen him in was Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was pretty goofy. He was okay. He was funny. And then to see him, you know, as a human, the human side of it, you know, it's really hard to judge his acting from this movie because it's not meant to be taken seriously. So I didn't walk in expecting, you know, somebody to pour out their heart and emotions and for me to feel a connection. But I get it. It just didn't work for me. So that's where some of my problems with Army of the Dead are. Because, first of all, you're walking in knowing it's complete absurd fucking movie from start to finish, especially with the zombie elements and the fact it's Vegas and why the fuck they're going in there. But that explains why they're going after money, because everything outside of Vegas is perfectly fine. Just normal United States of America. So, but once they're in the city and the coyotes getting them around, you know, to how to navigate the zombies that are still within the city, that's where you learn about other elements of the zombies. So they have the shamblers, as I said, and then they have the alphas. And basically the alphas are very territorial, and they will not fuck with you as long as you give them an offering, kind of like a sacrifice. So the object is find the worst person you can find in the group, somebody who's just a real jackass jerk-off, and then just offer him up to the alphas. And then what they do is they convert him to another alpha. Let's see. Anyways, give me a minute here. Got so much thoughts running through my head that it's coming out. All right, the next great things, the gore. Oh, wow, the gore. Definitely was great. There's some really, really fucked up gore moments. And I'm not talking just on the zombie side of things. I mean, it's zombie related, but I mean, I'm not just talking about flesh eating. I'm talking about full blown, like, holy fuck. Like, I'm sitting in the theater, I'm eating popcorn, drinking my Diet Coke, and I'm like, did they really fucking just do that? Yes, Zach really fucking just did that. So that was a great thing about that. So I'll give it there on the gore element. But see, I'm a type of person, too, that prefers my zombie movies to stay strictly horror. I don't look at them as just gore fests. So I don't really rate Army of the Dead as a horror film. I rate it as an action film with horror type elements. And that's really what it should be. But the great thing is you get some backstory about Dave Bautista, why he's a cook, what he did to help people escape from Vegas, what happened with him and his family, how things went a little south on that side, why he's willing to risk his life to do this. You get to meet his daughter. Obviously they have a strained relationship. They're going to connect with each other. And that gets flushed out. It gets explained of, why there's things like that. With the plot holes, like I said, they bother me, but I got to remember that this is a Zack Snyder comic book-ish zombie film. So it's better to just, let it be and be done with it. But there's a lot of plot holes, especially, like I said, with how they walled off the city. The idea that a few gallons of gas are going to keep generators running in the building so that they can see where they're going and things like that. I mean, just little stupid things like that. It's like they covered it like, if we put some gas in the generators, the backup generators will run and we'll have power in the casinos. Okay, you thought about closing that plot hole. You just didn't fill it up with 1 5-gallon gas can ain't going to make that generator run all that building on that kind of power for, the time they were in there. So getting back to it, the cast together, ragtag group of people that are just willing to risk their lives and go in and try to get this money is one thing. It worked for that point because, the money's spendable outside. But then, of course, there's always somebody in the group that has an ulterior motive. And, of course, when they don't communicate their ulterior motives, that's when plans go off track. I think that in the end, look, I'm not a huge fan. Doesn't mean I hate it. Doesn't mean if I'm flipping through, TNT or something in a couple of years and Army of the Dead pops up that I wouldn't stop and rewatch it. I most likely will buy it on Blu-ray because, films that I feel somehow connected to, and I'm not super connected to this other than having followed its development for 15 years. And I know what Zack went through, and there was another director attached, even though Zack was still producing, and he just couldn't get it done, and it was hard. And then Netflix came around and, it was like, here's $90 million, go make your zombie movie. And Zack's like, okay. That was the other weird thing, sitting in this auditorium. It wasn't a huge auditorium. It was one of the smaller ones at the Cinemark near me. But seeing the big Netflix logo and hear that ding-dong come up on the screen just didn't seem right, And I've noticed, too, that I'm not liking the way that movie theaters are presenting things nowadays. I've gotten so used to watching everything on a TV that sitting in a theater just different. It's like, now I got to keep my eyes all over the goddamn screen because there's so much more shit you got to see. And I'm kind of enjoying it being just in a smaller viewing area. As sad as that is to say. So overall, look, scripts could have used a lot of work. But it is what it is. For the movie, it is fine. We'll give the script a pass. The gore on a scale of 1 to 10, definitely give the gore elements an 8.5 to a 9. Makeup, zombies, how'd they look? I'd go with a solid 8, maybe 8.5. There were some zombies where you actually ended up seeing the human skin, but that was more in action sequences. So, but still, to me, that's lazy. Should have been covered up. That's where I draw the line on that. Costumes, the zombie costumes stretched, with people being in Vegas, showgirls, Elvis impersonators, spot on stuff there. And I hate doing this anymore because to me this means okay, but to everybody else it seems to be a white supremacist symbol. So I'm sorry, I'm just meaning it as okay. Acting. It's an action film, it's a popcorn movie. It's passable. So we'll say a 6 to a 7. It's nothing Oscar worthy and it's not, Deadlands 2 low budget acting. So let's take that into that part. The movie's about 2 hours long, a little over 2 hours long, so it's a bit of a chore. I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I couldn't hold it in. I tried, so I missed probably 2 minutes of something in there. I you always try to think, oh, if I leave here, I won't miss anything. And, it does in part make the review hard, because did I miss something that moved the plot along? When I came back, I didn't feel like I missed anything, but I missed 2 minutes to run to the bathroom, because, of course, at this theater, the theater's down here, and the fucking bathroom's all the way down at the end of the hall, right? The only bathroom in the whole fucking 12 Cineplex. They have it down at the end of the hall. Anyways, let's see, what else was there? Oh, well, okay, so some of Army of the Dead is shot in, well, it takes place in Vegas, but some of it was shot in Vegas, and some of it was shot in New Jersey. All of the exteriors where you see the zombie tiger from the trailer, especially under the valet parking area, the carport, that's all the Trump Plaza. The interiors are the Showboat Casino, all from Atlantic City. So it's kind of nice seeing Trump Plaza get all fucked up. And there's a lot of current jokes and references to our current political climate. Like, they actually have Donna Brazile and Sean Spicer giving commentaries about the zombies, which I thought was fucking hilarious. But overall, put together as a package, cut together, score was great. The, drop-in music to help enhance scenes were great. Overall, I would actually give the movie like somewhere like a 6.5 out of 10. It has some pacing elements that I thought could have been tightened up a little more. But not my film, not my vision. Just my opinion. I think that they could have trimmed a good another 10 minutes out of it, personally. To keep the thing moving. Because it's got a dead spot where you're kind of like... And that's where I kind of got up to go to the bathroom, like thinking it was the dead spot. But I have to say this, even when I got up to go to the bathroom and then when I came back, I never once pulled my phone out of I was wearing a hoodie tonight, so I didn't pull my phone out of my kangaroo pouch and just like, oh, what time is it? Never cared. No, actually, that's a lie. I did it once. And it was because I was waiting for a text from somebody. And I thought that was the text that came through, but while I had it open, I looked at the time, and we were an hour and a half into the movie at that point. So it was getting towards the end, but it felt like it was never getting there. All in all, I'd say, look, do you need to see it in a theater? It's a Zack Snyder film. Yes, you should see it in a theater on a big screen. But do you really need to see it in a theater if you don't care about that fucking shit? No, just go to Netflix, watch it. You'll enjoy it. All in all, it's a popcorn flick. Let's just keep it at that. It's a popcorn flick. It works for its goofy purposes. It was nice to see something that I know Zach was working on since 2005, 2006, finally come to the big screen. It was one of those when the first trailer came out and I knew they were making it, I said, okay, I hope this is coming to theaters. And then I heard it was a Netflix production, and I'm like, this sucks. And then when they said they were going to do a theatrical release a week before, I was like, ooh, I want to go that day. So I went. Today was technically tomorrow's the opening day, but they had a preview screening tonight. So I went to the 7 o'clock, the only screening. Theater was, because they're still doing COVID distancing, and today they just took the mask mandate down. So it was kind of half full because only half the seats are available. So there was a decent crowd. It just wasn't the full theater, which would fill all the seats. I think most of the folks had it. I was just talking to one guy and his girlfriend on the way out. They were like, it was okay. They said the trailer attracted them. They said the trailer was better than the movie. And I'm like, Yeah, both trailers were a little better than the movie, and again, you got to see the movie. So, like I said, I don't have anything more to say on it. It's just my 2 cents on what I think of Army of the Dead. I think there's some great things about it. It does cover a lot of the zombie elements from all of the zombie mythos, so everything from the George Romero stuff to the sci-fi stuff to the Dan O'Bannon Return of the Living Dead stuff. I mean, it's there. It's great. There's a lot of little references. Obviously the Justice League Snyder print cans, the Joker's gold AK-47s being in the vault. There's little hidden Easter eggs all over the place, and there's some really good ones. And if you're really, really attuned to finding those things, you're going to find Easter eggs to every one of Zack Snyder's films in that. And nods to other horror directors. And one of the other things I want to say, I was kind of close this out with this. Army of the Dead is Escape from New York with zombies. In a weird way, but that's basically what it is. If they had thrown Snake Plissken in there, it would have been Escape from Las Vegas. And I don't know if a 65-year-old, 70-year-old, how old is he now, Kurt Russell would want to revive Snake Plissken for that, but it was like Escape from New York with zombies. Although I'd rate Escape from New York a little better than Army of the Dead. Anyways, it's a good 2-hour time killer. If you're into zombies, it's got that. It's got the gore. It's got some great music, great visuals. All in all, you may enjoy it more than I did. For me, again, 6 to a 6.5 out of 10. But that mostly came from pacing issues and having a hard time swallowing some of the plot holes. Even though I try to wrap my head around it's a Zack Snyder over-the-top zombie flick, there's still certain things that, I thought, you had $90 million, you could have fixed this. But whatever. Or at least I'm going off 90 as being what the reported budget was. But on that note, that's pretty much all I got to say. I mean, it wasn't disappointing. I didn't come out and go, dude, I just wasted freaking, between the ticket and the concessions, it was like $26. I didn't waste $26. I feel like I got my $26 worth of entertainment out of the movie. And that's that. That's plain and simple. It's not going to be for everybody. But I think you're going to find some characters that you're going to really like. I ended up really liking Dave Bautista's character, but there were some other characters I really liked. I liked the Coyote. I liked Dave Bautista's daughter, who was Kate. There was a few other, like some of the ragtag group of people I really, really enjoyed. I mean, it's like Zach did a good job of connecting you with them and making you be like, oh, I like them. And then the people that you hate, he really wanted you to hate them. I mean, you guys like, fuck yeah, he just got what's coming to him. So that worked out perfectly. In the end, kudos to him. He got it done. We finally got to see it. Now we can put Army of the Dead up on the shelf with all the other zombie horror movies. And, in time will tell where it ends. Whether it'll be an endearing classic down the road, or if it's just going to, fall into the humdrumness of movies that are not as good. Like World War Z. A lot of people didn't like World War Z. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I don't hate it. I don't dig it off my shelf to watch it like I do with Dawn of the Dead. And I don't mean the remake. I mean the original, or Day of the Dead, or Night of the Living Dead. I even pull Snyder's Dawn remake down more than I do pretty much any other of the zombie films in my catalog. I think the ones I watch the most are Return of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, both the original and the remake Night of the Living Dead, and the original and remake and Day of the Dead. I don't usually pull too many others off my shelf, and I have quite a few. I'm not quite as many as my friend Eric up in Montreal does, but he's the zombie god. Anyways, guys, thanks for spending this half hour with me. I'm not like the other YouTube video guys. I don't get into the visuals and spending time editing and putting this whole thing together for you. This is just one guy who made a few independent zombie films, is a huge zombie fan himself, just giving you his opinion on a movie he just watched tonight on May 13th, 2021. So take it for what it's worth. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. Bye.